Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 17th of October. Right, as we come out of the North American session, there's not a hell of a lot of change in the major currency pairs. The Aussie still can sort of continue to sort of jam sideways. We had stronger inflation numbers yesterday. You can see where it took off from 65 to 50 on Kiwi yesterday. Topped out, they sort of gapped about 20 points and then slowly stored. So this is just trading sideways as well. The market, the Kiwi overall is in a long-term downtrend, but moving sideways or up on the hourly. So it's a bit confusing there. But so to me, it's just going to drift with the US dollar. Now, looks like all the rubbish news you read out there about trade tensions and this sort of stuff, once again, it gets filtered into the market. We've seen dollar yen sort of drift to the downside. Now, that's all dissipated and factored in. Now you're seeing dollar yen slowly climb above that resistance line and above the cloud, but it's not really rushing off anywhere, which suggests to me that this is no clear move. It's more sideways trading activity than anything else. And I've intentionally left my euro charts exactly how they are. You can see euro is almost trading like the Swiss, very neutral, because hasn't been any European data. The ECB is neutral, and you can see what the impact of the various fluctuations in the dollar are, or the US dollar index. So you get a little breaks to the downside, a little pop to the top side, and nothing really in between. And this is more associated with Brexit than anything else. And that's where sterling comes into play. Now, sterling and dollar CAD, for that matter, both have very good local fundamentals. UK inflation's through the roof. Employment numbers, average weekly earnings, very high also. We saw those average earnings come out yesterday. Sterling was sort of sitting around, or up around 132. It sort of just popped up about 15 or 20 points and sort of sat there for a while. No one was really willing to take it on, even with strong numbers. Usually these sort of strong numbers, you'd see sterling rally 100 points, but it eventually moved about 25, 30, but it's no one wants to get into it because Brexit is dominating. And the chance of negative news, etc., is too much for traders to bear the risk. So it continues to trade sideways. Dollar CAD has finally, CAD fundamentals are slowly dominating now. It's moving down on the hourly charts. It's on the daily and weeklies, it's a bit sideways. But once again, inflation in Canada is through the roof too. So to me, there's a couple of really clear signals here that you need to sort of just keep right down on your blotter. Sterling, once Brexit's out of the way, the UK fundamentals are huge. I can see this thing popping, 3 or 4 cents easy if Brexit gets done. CAD, now NAFTA's out of the way, but, there's all these geopolitical issues around oil and a few other sort of lingering things with the US dollar, and that's sort of slowing it down for the moment. But this thing should be a lot lower also. They're two pairs that, for me, make clear sense on the fundamental perspective. Now, you come across to the US dollar index. Okay, always good to see what the actual dollar is doing against everything else. You can see it's pretty much trading sideways at this point with the odd blimp down. Okay, it's not doing much. This is it's undecisive sort of trading because it's lacking sort of overall direction. Like fundamentally, the Fed are raising rates and will continue to raise rates. So fundamentally, it's strong, but it's lacking the push. And then you've got Trump sticking his head in about 4 or 5 different geopolitical events. It's a cocktail that diffuses the overall fundamentals of the US dollar. No one's really willing to sell it aggressively because fundamentally it's strong. So we're caught in a bit of a catch-22 there. If you look at dollar yuan, there's a lot of focus here on this currency pair. It is just sort of jamming away sideways. Now, we had sort of stronger, I was going to say CPI figures, but they're as expected. If I just take you through the data, and dollar yuan has hardly moved. Now, let me just come up. Actually, I want to show you the news first because this is where you've got to understand where the news services come into play. Now, some of it's just writing for the sake of it because they've got to fill the slots. China's yuan weakens as inflation data shows softer demand. And to me, that's porky pies. It came out as expected. It was 0.1% better than the last one. So, no, it's pretty steady. There's no weaker demand at this point. Dollar CAD strengthens to 11-day highs, stocks rally. Now, that's a load of crap too. You can actually put the stock movement down to anything. But what's happening is strong fundamentals in the CAD, and I mentioned this last week, I didn't even expect it to pop above 130. strong CAD fundamentals should see dollar CAD lower. If oil rallies again back towards 76, 77 bucks, it's going to be down to 128. So to me, that's just another a filler story. Sterling gains on labour market. Well, it did slightly, but the EU summit's coming up, right? Well, that's where they're going to be trying to work out this Brexit deal. And it's very hard Brexit because, I think a lot of the fact that the deal is potentially done has been cooked into the market. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if they come out and say, yeah, it's all done, we're all good. Sterling might pop like 50 or 100 points and then drop 300. I just don't know. That's why traders are leaving sterling alone at the moment. And up here, dollar steady as stock gains show improving risk sentiment. Well, yeah, you can say whatever you like. The dollar is just sort of flowing around with what's going on. We need some clear data there to see what's going on. Now, talking about economic data, let me just come back to the main page here. Now, you have a look at there's a couple of interesting things happening as well. The German zoo data, right? Economic conditions. This is a highly respected number. Really weak conditions or economic sentiment there. So the Germans are starting to feel like very unhappy with what's going on in Europe. And it didn't really have much of an impact on the Eurozone. To me, that's bearish Euro. As it is, Brexit news, etc., dominating. So we aren't seeing that data really impact like it should. And if I just go up just a touch, you'll see the employment numbers or unemployment numbers out of the UK pretty much as expected. But the average earnings, and this has been a massive focus for the Bank of England, like inflation's already through the roof. People are getting more money. So this is a big, as I said, to me, it's sterling 100 points higher. It's not. When you don't see the correlating move with the data, you should really sit back and take note. The US dollar, I think you've got a few extra supporters with the slightly stronger industrial production numbers. Now, that's a reasonably important number. Industrial production is a big component of the US economy. So that's where I think the underlying support for the US dollar came from. And probably with that, you do get the 2% bounce in the Dow Jones, almost 3% in the NASDAQ there as well. So, and 2% in the S&P 500. So that should set a positive tone across the board in equity markets, except keep an eye on China. I mean, this is the odd duck out, and we are trying to work out where things are going. I think trading $1, because there's no transparency with the Chinese economy. I mean, people are starting to ask questions whether the numbers are manipulated or not, etc. So, we've got the biggest, or one of the biggest economies in the world sort of messing around with currency manipulation, data. It's just not normal. So what we've got to do is we've got to wait to see how this thing unfolds. What ideally would be good is if out of this EU summit, the Eurozone and the UK come out with a Brexit deal. All right, now just coming back into the MyFX Trading Hub. Now this is where you can really sort of fine tune your overall expectations for what's going on in the market, as well as where the next opportunities are. Now, just having a look here, geopolitics, yep, they are definitely dominating, especially with the Brexit. The US-China situation is still sort of simmering away. Now, we've just had RBA Assistant Governor DeBell is currently speaking, but that's not the major wham bam thank you news. The UK CPI is the main game. Now, in normal market conditions, this would be a really hyped up situation. But at the moment with Brexit, the EU summit, this will more than likely be put on hold. It'll be interesting to see if these CPI numbers are stronger like they were last month, because then it's a lay down misère for the Bank of England to raise rates. Now, if the inflation numbers pull back, well then that may slow them down somewhat, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future post this EU summit. CAD manufacturing sales, well, the CAD is moving at the moment, so any sort of data coming out is important for that. And then that's going to lead into the FOMC meeting minutes, which can always throw up a curveball. So just keep an eye on those major events. So the major activity is going to be, well, I was going to say the European session, but probably the North American session might be a little bit clearer once we get through that UK session. Now, the daily analysis snapshot, no major change here on the major pairs. US dollar still sideways. And as I mentioned, the UK and and Canada, strong fundamentals, core fundamentals in the UK, strong core fundamentals in Canada means a lower dollar CAD. So these are the two pairs that I'm on close watch with, because they, on the hourlies, they're moving, but on the daily and weeklies, they're not. So the technicals aren't there yet. Once we get a bit of a clearer picture, this is why the US dollar is so important. Once we get a clearer picture with the US dollar, that's when these things will really light up. So I think we're getting much closer to really good trading conditions. You just got to be patient and wait for it at the moment. If you do have access to the back end, go in and have a look at the individual summary of these pairs. You'll see what I'm talking about there. All right, guys, that's it for me. Just follow the trail of the data. That's where the action is. Outside of that, just keep tuning up your charts. I mean, like the euro here, all you're doing is simply adjusting things. This support trend line in the euro, see how steep and tight it is. I'm almost inclined to sort of just drop that off because it doesn't sort of have any relevance. The rest of the trend lines do on the major charts. So you're looking for a flow, you're looking for momentum, you're looking for a trend. At the moment, I don't see any current overall trends or bias in any of these pairs. So just be patient, wait for the penny to drop, and that could come out of any of these releases or one of the announcements from the geopolitical events. And that's where the next big trade will come from. All right, guys, that's it from me. Have a good trade day. I'll see you in the live trade zone. Cheerio.